Oh yeah, a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine mentioned that her mum said that she felt like a leper when they were talking about the current lockdown situation, and she being an elderly lady, not being able to touch people. People when you are going for a walk, standing 2 meters away at least, you feel like you're not quite accepted. And then, funny enough, she ended up talking to another elderly lady she was dropping some food off to, who said exactly the same thing. Wow. I wonder if you or I are feeling very similar, that loss of touch, that loss of community, that loss of connection. I know that's true for a lot of people that potentially live alone. I, as a GP, a few weeks ago, did a home visit on an elderly man who'd had a couple of falls, and I went around to see him as a home visit just to see how he was and to check him over. And to some extent, it was a surreal experience. It was, for him, he hadn't seen anyone for a long time, face to face, apart from a neighbour who dropped off some food. And I came in his house, I sat down with him, I checked him over, made sure he was okay, and we had a human interaction. And it's made me think about this next season and what we're heading into, that actually as the lockdown is released, how we potentially might be able to spend more time with people without fear. Leprosy is an awful condition, or it was back in the Middle Ages and at the time of Jesus, where people were fearful that they would catch it by touching somebody, and lepers were often left in society on the corners of society. They were unable to meet socially with people. They were unable to be with other people. They ended up finding themselves in small groups, leper colonies, and that type of thing. Now, obviously, in our society, that's not likely to happen. If you've got COVID, you're not going to find yourself in a little room somewhere with other people with the same condition. But actually, we've all felt a little bit ostracised, a little bit cut off, lacking community, lacking friendship sometimes, and maybe even spending less time with other people, even our own home sometimes. It's made me think about Jesus and how he responded to lepers. I mean, firstly, he did some incredible healing. So we read of a number of stories of lepers that were healed, and then were able to rejoin society. And I remember, I was reading a bit in Matthew where Jesus got anointed by a lady, and it says this: while Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw that, they were indignant. What a waste! This perfume could have been sold at a high price and money given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, whenever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." So it's in memory of her, and Jesus was anointed, but it was in the home of a leper, or maybe an ex-leper. And the story, which has been told through all generations, is also being told about his house, that Jesus was in the house of somebody that had been ostracised, and his house was the one that would smell for months afterwards of the perfume, like the presence of Jesus with him in his life. Not only had he been healed potentially, but also he was there when this took place, and would later see Jesus die on a cross, probably. And I would suggest that one of the great opportunities we as Christians have is the opportunity to do as Jesus did, which is actually to find ourselves in homes, in houses of people that have found themselves isolated and a little bit lost. And as we come into when lockdown is released and we're able to see and spend time with each other a little bit more, I'm going to suggest something radical, that we, like Jesus, should be in the homes of those people that have been on their own. You may have found them on Zoom, you may have clapped with your neighbours in the street and met them for the first time, or got to know them a little bit better, but perhaps we should be spending more time in each other's homes, spending time with other people, and like Jesus, find ourselves in other people's homes. So let me encourage you to do that, and let's not waste the opportunity that we've been given to recognise how difficult it is to be isolated and cut off, because we've all found ourselves in that way. To remember those that have always been isolated and left cut off, and actually find time for them as we find our freedom again. So that's my encouragement at this moment.